Would you please stand? And then I have my younger daughter, Tammy. She's in charge of the office of our business. Tammy. She brought her fiance, Jim was right, Steve is right next to him. I'll get it yet. Sorry about that. I got so many things I could talk to you about, I don't know where to start. After Blackie, it just blows my mind off. That car that you see right there is a 40-Merc four-door sedan Phaeton. And it was originally started by Harry Westergard, Buddy O'Hunnison. He bought it right after he got out of service in '45, and Harry started working on it. And Harry put in a grill and cut the deck lid down. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. He cut the deck lid down and they put a hull top on it. And Buddy ran it for quite a while that way. But then in 1949 he come to me and he said, "Dick, I want you to build me an all-steel removable top for this big." I said, "Hey, that's a big car. I mean, a four-door Fit, and you know, it's a big car." And he said, "Well, do you think you can do it?" And I said, "Well, let's give it a shot." So we went to the wrecking yard, Bill Aston's, and I bought a top off of a, I forget the year, but it was a Chrysler top. And then I bought the back window out of an Oldsmobile. And then I brought all these parts back to my shop and started putting it together, and what a job that was. First of all, I had to take and change the back of the deck lid and change the angle on it so the car would end up looking like an aero sedan rather than any step in the top or anything. Then I had to build a framework all the way around the body to fit the top to, and I changed the rear window on the rear door so that the top and the rear door glass would blend. They even did that back in '49 because the stock rear window was square and it wouldn't look good. So I got it all together and shrunk and stretched and hammered, and I hammer welded the whole top. Every inch of that top was hammer welded. And I went crazy. Good thing I was only 19 or 20, because boy, it makes me tired just thinking about it now, I'll tell you. But I got it all hammer welded out. Then when I welded it to the framework all the way around, I had to lead that part because I couldn't get it all finished out by metal finishing it. So we did a bunch more metal work. We did change the bumpers and the gravel deflectors and the headlights, and I stepped the frame and had it so we could put the car as low as we wanted to get it. And then right after that we painted it maroon. And in those days we used to make up a special maroon paint that had gold powder in it. We used to use a Venus Martin No. 9 gold powder, and they would mix it with a mixing color, Sherwin-Williams mixing color. In those days it was all nitro lacquered, which of course no one uses that anymore now, but you could make them look just as good as the cars nowadays, but they just wouldn't hold up. The nitro lacquer just wasn't that great. So that car was showed all over, and it was the most outstanding car that I've ever done. And I've done a lot of their cars, but that was the most outstanding car, and it still stands out now. The car will be in the Sacramento Autorama in a couple of weeks from now, so if anybody's down there, they'll be able to see the car. So while we're on Harry Westergard, he was probably the best metal man that I've ever seen in my life. He was unbelievable. He started out, he was about 10, 12 years older than I am. And he started during the war and even before the war doing custom work and building roadsters. And he was a great metal man. And then later in life, him and his wife split up, and he was really broken up. He really was in bad shape. So he quit doing metal work and he went to work for a muffler shop. And when I found this out, I just couldn't believe it. So I went over to the muffler shop, and it was Selinger's, wasn't it, Harold? I went over to the muffler shop and I said, "Harry, would you come by my shop tonight? I'd like to talk to you." And he came by, and I said, "Harry, you're wasting your talent. I mean, you're unbelievable. I mean, the things you can do with your hands, the cars that he's built, and the workmanship, the quality, was unbelievable. And anybody that knew or seen any of his cars would understand that. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you twice of what you're getting paid now if you come to work for me. And he did. He came to work for me. This was in about 55, I think. He had a 55 T-Bird, so it must have been 56. And then he came to work for me, and his workmanship was just flawless workmanship. I couldn't believe it. Well, I could believe it, but I didn't know how he did it so well. But he was just a craftsman. And then, this is kind of hard. He'd go down the river road every weekend, and he'd go to a place called Juicy's. It was a restaurant, and huh?
And a bar.
And a bar. He was such a nice guy that he'd buy everyone drinks. Everyone that came in, he'd buy drinks, and he'd spend his whole paycheck on drinks for all of. He's really a nice guy. So then when he'd come back to work Monday morning, he'd hit me up for $20 so he'd get by the rest of the week. So I said, Harry, I got an idea. What I'm going to do is give you $20 on Friday night, and then I'll give the rest of your paycheck Monday. So he started doing that, and he said, well, about a month or so later, he says, Dick, I'm getting all my bills paid off. But anyway, the guy was great. I've seen him. At that time, instead of all custom work, I was doing some sport car works like Austin Healey's and Jaguars and Porsches, and in '53 the Corvettes come out. We did the Corvette work in town, and he had this Jaguar XKE that he'd done, and I'm telling you, you could put a feeler gauge around the hood after he straightened this thing out. And no filler. We didn't have Bondo then anyway. The only thing we had was lead, and of course the Jaguar was half aluminum anyway, so you couldn't lead it. But the guy was just the best metal man, and I learned so much by just watching him. And he was the greatest. And he died young. Oh, let me tell you about that part. Can we go just a minute longer? Okay, 1 minute. I'm sorry about this, but I could go all night.
Yeah, we already had Blackie at that.
Yeah. Do I sound like that?
Now you're much better looking.
Okay. This will finish it up fast. When he drive that T-Bird, every time he drive that T-Bird, he raced it. He'd race it every single day. We'd go to lunch, and he'd go race from stop sign to stop sign, anybody who was around. So what he was doing, he was coming home from this bar at the middle of the night, and he would go as fast as he could to get to Sacramento in a certain amount of time. Airport gate, that's where the finish line, right, Earl? And so one night he was coming down that road about over 100 miles an hour, and a car pulled out in front of him, and he swerved to miss the car, and he went into a tree. 3 trees sideways. The T-Bird broke right in half, completely in half, and of course killed him on the spot. And it was the biggest loss that that we've had in a long time when he lost his life, because God, he worked for me for 6 months, and he was doing great, and he was just a wonderful fella. And listen, I got a lot of things I can talk about, but I know it's running late, so thank you very much. I sure appreciate it.